that tonight.
I'll call this meeting to order.
She's talking.
Mary, roll please.
Arthur.
Here.
Myers.
Here.
Howard.
Here.
Redmond. Showalter.
Here. And I'll join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you everybody for joining us today. Hope you guys all had a good 4th of July. Do we have anybody signed up for public comment tonight? Okay. We'll move on to proclamations and presentations. We have our 2024 audit report by Mr. Harold Mays. Glad to have you back. You timed it out just perfectly. We were worried that you weren't going to be here. Yeah.
Okay, if you open up, pass the table of contents. Independent Auditor's Report. This is our part of the financial statements to issue an opinion on them. And you opt out of what they call generally accepted accounting principles and into the statutory basis of accounting. So these are a matter of public record. So the first thing we have to do is tell everybody that you're not in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles, but you are in accordance with the statutory basis of accounting. And that is what we're actually giving our opinion on. And that's a fair, unmodified, clean opinion on the financial statements. Management's responsibilities for these statements is to make sure that they're fairly presented in accordance with that Kansas Municipal Audit Guide, which is a statutory basis. Our responsibility to exercise professional judgment while doing the audit, identify and assess the risk of material misstatement, obtain an understanding of the internal controls, evaluate the appropriateness of the accounting principles used, and conclude that the city has no issues with the going concern, that you're going to continue on into the future. A lot of the information in these financial statements, as far as detail goes, for each fund is in the back of the financial statements, and we give a report on that supplemental information stating that we feel that they are fairly presented in accordance with that audit that we did last year, and that they are also in accordance with the audit for this year. Now, due to the fact that you have so much federal funding, we also have to give a report on governmental auditing standards, which is that next paragraph. And this paragraph is just telling you that that report is included in here, and it's back in the back part of the financial statements, and we'll go over it when we get to that. Also in the back, you have prior comparative information with 24's financial information. And again, we say it's fairly stated in accordance with the audit that we did last year. Excuse me. If you turn to page 4 and 5, basically what you have is a summary up front of all the funds, telling you what happened in basically in a summary form, taking you from unencumbered cash through cash receipts, expenditures, and to unencumbered cash. And then we reconcile that back to cash by adding all the payables and encumbrances that are included in expenditures to come to the cash balance at the end of the year. If you look at general fund, it went down slightly. Your special revenue funds actually went up, mostly due to the municipal equipment reserve and the capital improvement reserve, which had quite a bit of transfers into them from other funds, both the general fund and also the business funds, electric, water, and sewer. Bond interest is down slightly. It's just making its general payments that it's required to. And the cash wasn't quite as high as it was the year before in terms of taxes money, so that's the reason it's down. Capital projects is the interesting one because basically it looks like it's way down, and it's also got a negative balance on the airport improvement. Generally, this would be an issue, statute violation. But in this case, what we have is we got grants that are going to cover that balance. Those grants work in the way of basically you have to incur the expense and then you get the money. So because of that, it kind of gets you out of a statutory violation. It's just the way it's presented, even though it has a negative cash presented on that one. Business funds, again, I think for the most part, electric was up, but it's like water was down some and sewer was down some. Mostly, the ones that are down is because of transfers out of them into the municipal equipment reserve and the capital improvement reserve. And when you look at utility funds, one of the things that people try to see is if there's enough carryover cash to cover about 3 months worth of activity into the next year, assuming you didn't get any additional receipts, which isn't going to happen. Well, in that case, if you look at it from that standpoint, electric utility is a little under having a 3-month cash reserve, but when you consider all the transfers it made out, which was like $900,000 worth of transfers, that's part of the reason it's down. Okay, water was okay. I think sewer was okay. Solid waste is down and doesn't cover its three months worth of expenditures. But again, it's mostly just there was a little bit of a transfer out of that one, and most of it's the contract that you have, and that's pretty set in stone. There's not a lot of changes that occurred during the year because of that. On the other side, page 6 and 7 is some transfers, some trust funds, the municipal endowment fund and the law enforcement fund, and they were both up slightly. We get to the footnotes, and on page, let's see, page 10, one thing we look for is to see that the cash balances are adequately secured, and as of the year end, they were either covered by pledged securities and or the FDIC coverage. The defined benefit plan on page 11, again, I just bring this up each year because of the number. On that second to last paragraph, the liability for the pension fund is now sitting at $2,290,854. That's not included in the financial statements as an expense. It's just shown here because it's considered a long-term liability. And obviously it is, because it's taking these peoples that are on it, saying that they're going to work so long, retire at a certain age, and pass away at a certain age, and then they bring that back present value-wise to now. And that's what that number is. Excuse me. On page 12, we have the debt, and we just had payments this year, so we went from $4,050,000 down to $3,590,000, and it's due, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and then we start showing in 3-year increments or 5-year increments for 2030 to 34 and 2035 to 36, which is when the last one pays off. Page 14, you get to see all those transfers that were made, both out of airport to airport improvement and the general fund, electric, water, and sewer funds. On page 17, one of the things that the statutes look for is to make sure that you have an exceeded budget. And if you look at that last column where it says variance over under budget, you see that they all have a bracket around them, which means they were under budget. And that's what you want to see, 0 or under budget. If they're over that, then it's a statute violation. And generally speaking, if they're over, usually that's because of some special circumstance, and you're usually going to have some kind of meeting on it to basically up that budget on that particular fund anyway. Okay, page 18 and 19 is your general fund. You're going to see that cash or taxes were up, your intergovernmental was up, your license and fees was down, and your charges for services was also down, but fines and fees was down, and then use of money, which is your interest income, was up, and so was your operating transfers in were up slightly. So expenditures out, your general government up from last year. So was police department, municipal court, generally due to the salary increases that were in those particular ones. Animal control, I think the only one that went down was, let's see, the building inspection went down some, as well as did airport. Let's see, there's one more that was up down. Maybe not. Maybe all the rest of them were either at or some above what they were the year before. After that, basically you have all the other funds that are presented here, and wasn't going to go over too much detail. Like I said, they're all under budget. There's no statute violations. Most of them saw some growth during the year, and the ones that didn't usually is due to transfers out of those funds. That was what mainly created some of the differences there. Page 36, you do have the bond interest, and as I said, it's down. And it's partly down because taxes in that one were down about $10,000 compared to the year before. After that, I'm going to flip clear back to page 54. Part of the reason you're required to have an audit is statutory basis, is required by the state of Kansas. But you're also required, if you have federal funding, it's over $750,000. And this next year, it switches to $1 million. But any expenditures that exceed $754,000 require what they call a single audit or a compliance audit. So as you can see, the street improvements, airport improvements, ARPA grant, all ended up resulting in $1,970,000 in expenditures, which means you're subject to the single audit, which on page 57 is the reason why we have another opinion. First, in accordance with governmental auditing standards, in which what we're looking at is internal control and compliance over just general features, that you made sure your deposits were on time for payroll taxes and that kind of thing. So it's kind of more of a general nature on this governmental auditing standards, and we did not find any deficiencies or material weaknesses. I know that's kind of a negative way of saying it, but basically we don't test every transaction. So the ones we did look at, we didn't have any issue with. Okay? On page 59, it gets more into the fact that you have that $1 million worth that you spent in expenditures. And basically we look at it and we kind of have to evaluate the dollar amount. We have to put them in a couple buckets, type A, type B programs. We have to select so many of those programs and detail test them in order to see if we feel like you're in compliance. And basically we did feel like you were in compliance with the federal requirements on those particular grants that we did detailed testing on. And the ones selected where we did the most testing on page 61 was the street improvements and the airport improvements, where we looked at the number of transactions and reports, that type of thing, to see that you were in compliance. That's all I've got.
Harold, I guess I'd ask you the same question I asked you last year.
Sure.
So we're getting a clean bill of health in, you're not
Yes.
finding any deficiencies, no issues that you uncovered, nothing that we need to be
Nothing
aware
that you
of or
need to be concerned about. On page 61, I probably will redefine. It says auditee qualified as a low-risk auditee, and it says no. That sounds kind of bad. But because you opt out of generally accepted accounting principles into statutory basis, which is what 95% of Kansas municipalities do, the federal government says you can't have a yes down there. And to get a yes, generally you have to have gap statements, and you have to have been audited for 2 years and not had any findings. Well, you've had not any findings for the last couple of years, but unfortunately, you've opted into statutory basis, which again, I'd say 95 to 98% of the municipalities in the state of Kansas do. So, okay.
Kent, if a member of the public wanted to review this report, where can they get a copy of it or come by to review it?
It was included in the packet, for one thing, so they can always look for the agenda packet for July 7th. Or they can always come to City Hall and there'll be one day inspection.
Ask me to email it to them, and I do,
Perfect. Okay.
because I get it electronically.
Okay,
So,
great. Does anybody else have any questions for Harold?
Nope.
I appreciate you running up the stairs to give us your report. Thank you.
Well, I thought I started out in plenty of time, but construction kind of got the better of me on the way over here. There was no other construction sites I had to go through, so that slowed me up. But
Well, thank you for all your efforts, Harold. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to the consent agenda, items A, B, and C. Item A is the 6/16/2025 Commission meeting minutes. Item B is the 6/26/25 Commission work session minutes. And item C is appropriation ordinances 2025-13, 2025-13A, 2025-P13, and 2025-P13A. Does anybody have any questions over items A, B, or C?
I move that we approve consent agenda items A, B, and C.
I have a motion from Commissioner Myers
Second.
and a second from Commissioner Howard. Mary, roll please.
Howard,
Yes.
Radlin, Myers,
Yes.
Archer. Yes. Showalter.
Yes. Thank you, everybody. We'll move on to ordinances and resolutions. Item A is ordinance 1799, adopting and amending section 16-401 through 16-416 regarding bicycles, electric assisted bicycles, skateboards, scooters, electric scooters, etc.
This was discussed at a previous meeting. Police Chief Jason Hart, along with assistance with the city attorney and staff, put this together for your consideration. And I would ask Jason if he has any other comments regarding the ordinance.
Just out of curiosity, it may have been in there, I may have missed it. If, let's say, some of these kids actually, can they walk there? Since there's so many new places, restaurants, and things like that to go on Main Street, are they able to walk their bicycles and scooters on Main Street, or is it they just cannot be on Main Street?
You're talking about on the sidewalk?
Yes.
I would say that if they're walking, that would be, okay.
Just curious.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think that poses an issue. It's the speed that we're worried about.
Right. Understand. Okay.
Any other questions for the chief or the city manager?
I have a comment. I saw this same issue pop up with the city epoxy on their Facebook page, so it's clearly a thing that we're all dealing with. So I'm glad we kind of got ahead of it.
Any other questions? Sure, go ahead.
So they require, if they are on the street, they're required to stop at stop signs, just like,
They're to obey all traffic laws.
that's what I thought. Because
Bicycles,
I myself have
scooters.
seen a couple different incidents where I was driving, and they went through this, yeah. And one kid on Main Street, he was like weaving a little bit in the car behind him. I thought he was gonna come into my lane for a minute, but then he didn't stop at the stop sign either, so.
Sure. Yeah, no, they're to.
So I'm glad you guys are,
Yeah, I mean, sometimes we're there, sometimes we're not, so, to catch them, but they're to obey, all, traffic.
that's what I figured,
And we do stop them when we see them.
yeah,
And they can be cited just like they would be for a vehicle.
yeah.
So we're working on it hard, we're trying.
Yeah, well, I was just thinking more of their own safety. It's
Yes.
like, oh my goodness, there's people, but anyway.
Sure.
Thank you, chief. Any other questions?
Nope, I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 1799.
I'll second that motion. So I have a motion by Commissioner Howard, second by myself. Mary, roll please.
Archer,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes.
Radlin, Showalter.
Yes. Thank you. Move on to formal actions. Item A, acceptance of the 2024 audit report. I think that was a pretty thorough review by Harold. I think the last several years I've been impressed with the report they put together. They do a great job, and they do a great job for the college too. So it's they're always very thorough. I don't know that I have any issues with the report. It's available to the public. If anybody wants to review and take a look at it, it's out there. It's an open book. So I would make a motion that we accept the 2024 audit report.
Second?
Motion by myself, second by Commissioner Myers. Mary, roll please.
Myers.
Yes.
Howard.
Yes.
Redlin. Archer.
Yes.
Showalter.
Yes. Item B, the new C&B license for the Goodland Travel Center. Mr. City Manager?
As included in your packet, the agenda item, the Goodland Travel Center has applied for a cereal malt beverage license for sale in original and unopened container, not for consumption on the premise. The inspections have been completed, and I think the owners are here as well. They're required to show up for the original license application. And I didn't know if the owners would have anything to say.
I feel the same way. Okay. Anybody have any questions, comments, or concerns? Thought I'd make a motion to approve the C&B license for the Goodland Travel Center.
Second?
I have a motion by myself, second by Commissioner Artzer. Mary, roll please.
Howard.
Yes.
Redlin. Archer.
Yes.
Myers.
Yes.
Showalter.
Yes.
Sorry about that.
It's all right. Thank you. All right, moving on to item C, approved pickleball resurfacing project, pro track and tennis proposal.
We brought this to you earlier in the year for a grant application. You approved submitting it for the grant application. During that process, we've ended up having to apply for 2 different grants because the Sherman County Community Foundation were gracious enough, and then they pointed us in the direction they wanted Dane G. Hansen Foundation to participate first, and then they would fill in the gaps from the Sherman County Community Foundation. And we ended up with grants from both. $6,000 from the Dane G. Hansen Foundation and $10,500 from Sherman County Community Foundation, and we're grateful for both of them. Now we've come back and we're presenting the actual project, so the project can be approved and the contract signed with the vendor. Vendor is the same one who redid the tennis courts resurfacing that seemed to have a lot of remarks. They did an excellent job with the tennis courts. So this is Pro Track and Tennis, and they're out of Nebraska, but they're the ones that provided us with the, which was also included in your packet, the proposal. And we did confirm, even though it was back in January that he visited the site, that everything remains the same regarding his proposal. So.
This base bid of 20,000, I don't know much about this. Is that kind of generally what you would pay for something like this?
Yes, for the resurfacing project, and it describes in the deal that there's actually a couple, 3 layers that occur.
Yeah.
So it isn't just a one resurfacing. They actually do quite a bit of work with the surface to prepare it from what the current surface is at. The other thing is that Danny Krejcia, the park superintendent, and myself have gone over that we'll have the city crews be responsible for removing the posts because there was a request that when they have players on all 3 courts at the complex in Chambers Park, that it gets a little crowded when people are playing. So, but from the pro track and tennis, they said there is enough room within the current concrete pad that the posts be moved so that there'd be 10 feet between each court. And then there's enough room on the sides, I think it's 8 to 10 feet left over on the sides. We'll also work with the person who's been championing this and about 20 other players. Dex Reese and a bunch of other folks have been really interested in this project. We're the ones that kind of brought it to the city to try to get something done with the courts. So we'll work with them there. We're looking to have some fencing in between the courts, and that's with the few extra $100 from the Sherman County Community Foundation will help us get that accomplished.
So just to refresh our memory, what's the city's percentage of responsibility after the grants come in?
Well, it's going to be in-kind work. From the proposal, it's about $8,000 worth. Above the $20,000, but it'll end up around $4,000. Is what our responsibility is. And we have that through the Special Parks Fund.
So that was already kind of budgeted, more or less.
It's there.
Yeah.
Mary Volk's just reminding me that it's there. So.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns about the pickleball resurfacing project? Not entertain a motion to approve.
A second?
I will make a motion to approve the pickleball resurfacing project, and I will accept Commissioner Archer's second to that motion.
I thought you said you made a
Is
motion.
this just for the base bid? Or
Yes.
20,000?
For the 20,000, okay.
Mary, roll please.
Myers,
Yes.
Archer,
Yes.
Redlin, Howard,
Yes.
Showalter.
Yes. Sorry, I'll talk louder next time. Move on to item D, notice to terminate the firm energy capacity and ancillary services agreement effective at the end of the initial term, ending on December 31st, 2026.
This is through our discussions over the last several months when we had received proposals regarding the power supply contract after the end of 2026. We have received proposals from Sunflower Electric Corporation and Prairie Land Electric Cooperative, who currently provide us the power supply to the city. And we'd also received a proposal from Kansas Municipal Energy Agency, KMEA. After reviewing those proposals and also having John Quinday with Municipal Solutions provide an evaluation of the two different proposals, it was the Commission's direction that we start working towards having a contract with KMEA and to give a notice of termination to current power suppliers. That's what's before you now. It states in our current agreement that if the agreement is to be terminated, that there needs to be a notice at least 1 year prior to the end of the contract. So that's what is before you, is a letter that is basically follows the outline provided in the energy contract.
Okay, as usual, you give a eloquent recollection of all of our requests to you over the last several meetings. And asking my fellow commissioners if they have any other questions, comments, or concerns about this request to file this notice.
I assume Jake has looked at it and all is good with that, with the legal wise.
Yes.
Not-
Jake has
Okay.
given us
Yes.
a nod of approval.
I'll make a motion to send a letter of termination to the power supply contract with Sunflower and Prairie Land Electric Cooperative.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Howard, second by Commissioner Myers. Mary, roll please.
Archer?
Yes.
Myers?
Yes.
Howard?
Yes.
Redlin? Showalter?
Yes. Move on to item E, Energy Management Project Number 2, agreement between Kansas Municipal Energy Agency and the City of Goodland.
Now, this is the next step, and we have two representatives from KMEA here this evening that can provide additional information. There's quite a bit of information in your packet as far as the actual energy agreement, but probably to help with layman's language, it would be better if Paul and Tyson from KMEA can provide some additional details.
Good evening, Commissioners. Paul Malberg, I'm the General Manager of Kansas Municipal Energy Agency, and the Energy Management Project Number 2 is the agreement that 15 other cities have already signed, and we pool, or we take advantage of working together with those 15 cities. So this contract would pull you into that, we like to call it EMP Number 2. We have two other EMPs, 1 and 3, across the state. So that agreement just allows for us to, it's a 3-year agreement. You can get out with a 1-year notice, but we'll, through that process, we'll work with you on your power supply and develop a power supply portfolio for you for whatever term you would like. Your existing WAPA power supply contract, you do have you're participating in a solar project that will go online around January 1 of 2027, and then we'll work with you on other projects and fixed energy deals to provide this portfolio that you desire. Obviously, we'll take advantage of your power plant when that makes sense. So this agreement just allows for us to be able to manage your power supply portfolio for at least a 3-year term, and it just kind of evergreens, and you can get out with a 1-year notice.
Yes, and this might not be an appropriate question to ask at this time, but I'll just throw it out there. We had discussed in previous meetings whether or not KMEA would be able to assist us with a buyout of our current sunflower contract to try to get on earlier. Is that any assistance that you guys provide, or is there any way we could discuss that maybe?
Absolutely, we can, as a member of Kansas Municipal Energy Agency, again, we're a member organization, you've been a member for decades. I think you were one of the original members of KMEA when it was formed, in 1980. We're here to provide any services that you desire. So we have a general counsel on staff that is very diverse and experienced in contracts, and so, her services are available for you if that's something that you would want us to look at.
Okay. Thank you. We have any other questions, comments, or concerns?
It's just a long contract.
Well, we certainly look forward to what the future could hold for the city of Goodland and KMEA as we work on this new agreement. And I assume we're going to need a motion then to...
Well, the actual motion is regarding the resolution that authorizes the execution of the MP2 agreement.
Okay.
And, the timing is such, if there's any question or concern by the commission, this, because of the timing of it, that the power supply doesn't actually occur till January 2027. And some of the fixed energy deals might not happen till a few months before that January 1st, 27 date. That if there's any question at all, it doesn't besmidge anything to say we want some more time to look it over, because it is an extensive contract. But if you would like to move ahead with it and go ahead and put this issue to bed, then the resolution that's supplied in the packet, Resolution 2025-17, it basically authorizes us to sign the agreement and to move ahead with it.
Yep.
Well, I don't know how the rest of the commissioners feel, but I certainly feel like, we've done our due diligence. We've hired the the external party to review the contracts. At this point, I don't know that there will be any other review that we can do that's going to change my mind one way or the other. So I would be willing to move forward with the resolution if the rest of the commissioners are ready to vote.
Do we need to send our termination letter to Sunflower before we do this, or can they do it concurrently?
Since we've acted, the action to send a notice of termination occurred
Okay,
before in this meeting, so that's okay.
okay.
The one question I would ask Paul to explain further is that this is a 3-year agreement, and we had asked for a 5-year agreement, but that's because of the nature of the EMP2 agreement, not the power supply contract itself.
Yeah, they're two separate things. The EMP2 agreement pulls you into that pool of 15 other cities. Each of those cities have signed the exact same agreement that's in front of you. So that agreement basically says how we're going to work together as 15 cities, now 16 cities, if you move forward on this. The power supply is a separate issue, and we'll be coming back to you at some point with some proposals on how your power supply portfolio should look like and some recommendations on that. So each one of those power supply, just like the solar project that you did a number of months ago, we brought that forward to you. You said yes or no to it. We bring opportunities to each of our members. They pick and choose what they want. We help them put their power supply portfolio together. That'll be a different track. So if you want a 5-year fixed energy contract, that's something we'll bring to you. That'll pretty much put you in place for the next 5 years. The EMP agreement, just you can move out in and out of that pool if you like. The power supply contracts will remain with you, depending on the length.
So basically, it's approving the structure of how to interact with KMUA rather than the actual power supply. Those will be future decisions for the commission.
So does it, like this here, does it, being in with 15 other cities, it'll give us a better buying capacity?
Absolutely, that's kind of you just nailed why we exist.
Right.
Way back in 1980, it's like if the cities would join together, we'd have more buying power and be able to participate in projects. The solar project you're involved in, I think there's 34 cities of our members that joined into that. That allowed us to participate in that large-scale solar project. Goodland by itself probably would not have been able to have that opportunity. So yeah, you nailed it perfectly.
Any other questions? None, I'd make a motion to approve Resolution 2025-17, authorizing the execution of the energy management project agreement between the city and the KMEA related to the coordination and generation of purchase of electricity.
Second.
Motion by myself, second by Commissioner Howard. Mary, roll please.
Myers.
Yes.
Howard.
Yes.
Redlin. Archer.
Yes.
Showalter.
Yes.
We appreciate your
Thank you.
opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Look forward to doing business with you guys. All right, move on to discussion items, the 2026 budget, utility funds and remaining funds.
Well, anybody else that wants to exit the building before the exit stage. You guys can get that choice.
Yeah,
Well, last time we went through the general fund, and we included in the packet this time basically every other fund from the budget that we ended up having to do. Go ahead, Josh. And our objectives with the budget is we want secure reserves, but right now our reserves are dropping. Sustainable operations. We want to have investments in our staff, and we want to have facility and infrastructure improvements if possible. And if possible, we'd like to diversify the revenue base, so we don't have to rely so heavily on one part, but that's very difficult to do. Go ahead, Josh. Right now, our economic conditions are steady, but there's a little uncertainty. Sales tax remains steady, which is good. However, we have inflation effects. We got every purchase is difficult in either availability, price, or delivery. And I'm sure people at their houses and businesses are ending up with the same type of thing for them. But there's a couple areas kind of highlighted in this budget that are, the electric area is way more affected than just regular consumer price index would indicate. And then our property taxes, we did have a small assessed valuation increase, as seen in our total assessed valuation, about a 2.8% increase. Go ahead, Josh. We'll start with the electric fund. The revenues in the budget are kept the same level unless rates change. Right now, our budgeted revenues is not a significant difference from 2019, and they're actually less than what we got in 2016. So I know that people, they take a hard look at our electric bills, and they should, but our budgeted revenues is really not anything different from a decade ago. Waterworth is a company that accounting staff and myself have been meeting with on a regular basis, and we'll have a presentation on revenue versus expenditures for electric department and for the water department shortly. So the electric fund revenues were in the middle of the pack. For commercial, we're about 35th out of 67 communities in a survey done by KMEA last year. And we're higher than average for residential. We're 48th out of 67. That's based if you had, your bill was about 1,000 kilowatt hours per month. However, what was interesting is the commercial, Evergy Central was 6th, Garden City was 8th, and Evergy Metro 25th. So we're 35th, so we're below those. But our residential is right in the middle of the pack of those three large systems. Evergy Metro is KC, Kansas City area and suburbs, 47th. Garden City was 49th. And Evergy Central, which handles Wichita, Manhattan, and Topeka, and other areas in between those three large communities, was 50th. So as far as residential rates, we're about the same as a lot bigger areas. So, but they give breaks to commercial, as you can see from that. That's basically what that slide is saying. Go ahead. Now the electric is divided between production, which is our power plant, or getting the power to the lines if it's coming from outside of town. As far as what's budgeted in here, our personnel is keeping to the schedule. Our contractual, we have a big ticket item unchanged, which is our power purchased, which actually may differ coming up, maybe not in 26, but maybe to 27. The insurance has increased, and actually that was a big amount. It's not a little amount. KMEA is researching options because almost every town that has their own power plant is running into the same issue. Insurers do not want to insure power plants. So, other minor adjustments. Commodities, we did have, it's about $1,500 increased, although actually usually come in below that amount. We do have transfers to SURF, which is portions for the roof replacement, is probably one of the top ones in that fund. And then the transfer to the MRF, which is the Municipal Equipment Reserve Fund. There's portions for switchgear for three-phase sub and IT backbone. The increase for the switchgear was included in this budget. Go ahead, Josh. We're considering the frequency of maintenance runs on engines at plant, at least in 26. The maintenance mode is more often than new projects as far as the production fund. And a power plant is still a good negotiating tool for power contracts and may become even a greater asset as we move forward. So, go ahead, Josh. On the distribution side, which is all the lines that line the alleys and everywhere else, the personnel is approximately the same, the contractual. There we have an increase as well, the insurance. Insurance, that's a common issue. Our insurance, just because of all the big events that have happened nationwide, our insurance has gone up significantly. We're looking to try to have an electric master plan put together. Construction material is up, a couple others, minor increases. We do keep replacing the old beaters. The SURF, we did reduce to 230,000. We're still building on the 7 Mile tie-in and South Loop as far as the money set aside for those projects. The South Loop is over $1 million project, and the 7 Mile tie-in is pretty close to that. So, and because we're responsible for that 7 Mile tie, if there would be storm or anything else that destroyed that line, it'd be up to us to put it back. So, and we also have 10,000 set aside for pedestrian crossing lights within that. If we can do something regarding some of the crossing lights on Caldwell. And then on the MRF, it's basically set aside mainly to replace units 19 and unit 20, the bucket trucks. We're getting closer on both. But that's $250,000 per truck or more. Isn't that right?
A little bit more.
A little bit more than that? Maybe 350 by now?
I'd say 300.
So, that's the stuff we have to look forward to try to take care of and try to have decent equipment, so. We looked at ways to control supply chain issues, whether through the co-op or other municipalities. Dustin has had conversations with KMEA trying to of possibly becoming a utility warehouse for KMEA, which would help us in a couple different ways. The other thing regarding bucket trucks, it's at least 2 years before you get one. So if one of our units went kaput and didn't want to run, and Levi couldn't put it back together, or anybody else, any of the other, if we'd send it back to the appropriate mechanics, it'd be at least 2 years before we could get one. Go ahead, Josh. It's tough to manage this budget with supply chain issues. And it isn't, the bucket truck is just an issue. It's just like if regarding the, and I've mentioned this to you and I've mentioned it to the folks trying to put together the grain mill and bakery concept out in the industrial park. Getting some of, to build a new substation might take about a year's time. So, to get all the parts that would be needed for it. We've been able to maintain staff. It's been a key component. We haven't had to face lack of candidates yet, like other municipalities. And we want to assess the benefit of additional power units, and hopefully this contract with KMEA will help us understand that. Go ahead, Josh. We also have a third fund, which is the commercial and general fund, which is our utility staff and some other folks are paid for out of that part of the electric fund. There's a slight decrease in personnel because it's exchanged people, making it part of something else. Contractual, it's mainly the professional services, which is the software, the financial software that gets involved, and the interest, which is related to deposits. Our commodities are slightly reduced, and the other stuff kind of remains the same as it was. Go ahead, Josh. The miscellaneous and reserve fund 32, that's where we do the transfer to the general, which we've kept the same as the previous year. Because frankly, our reserves are falling in the electric fund. We're gonna have to watch how much goes to the general fund, which then affects how much our property taxes are. Subsidizing the general fund with our utility revenues, something we've done for decades, but it's something we have to do, or else our property taxes would be much higher. Right now, the reserve fund will have a little over 600,000 at the end of '25. Do not want too high a reserve, however, this amount will not pay for the 7-mile tie-in that I mentioned before. And those are ors. The 7-mile tie-in, the build a new substation, or replace a generator engine. That's not all three of them for 600 grand, that's one of them. So, that gives you an idea. Sometimes people comment about our reserves, and the part of the explanation is that it really doesn't pay for what you think it does. And as you can see in some other parts of the country, when these major events occur, your insurance isn't much help either. That hurricane that hit North Carolina and all those counties that were wiped out, their insurance wasn't able to help a whole lot for 2, 3, 4 months. Now, if we want to go without power for 2, 3, 4 months, that is an option, but I don't think it's a good option. But go ahead, Josh. I think I've said enough on electric. That's our total receipts and expenditures from 14 through 24. And you can see that our receipts and expenditures, without the cash balance, is very close to each other. So we're not making any money on the electric fund. In other words, we're not adding to the balance, obviously. Go ahead. Hopefully I didn't leave other charts in there. Go ahead, Josh, that's fine. On the water utility, we also have a presentation coming from Waterworks pretty soon. We'll probably have a request for a rate increase as part of the presentation. And right now, our revenues, it's the same amount unless City Commission approves any changes, and water revenues can vary. Because when we had a real wet spring in 23, obviously our water revenues were down because people weren't watering their yards as much. So, go ahead. And those are the actual, it shows our cash balance on a general downward slope at a little uptick from 20 to 22, but it's continuing going down right now. Go ahead, Josh. Skip that one. Well, our utility fund on the production, because we have a water treatment plant, we also have wells. We have 9 wells that get involved. We pay certain personnel out of it. Our insurance is up. And I make mention of that because it's up a significant amount. So commodities are the same. Capital improvements don't really have anything. We're saving for projects. We don't have any current projects for just this year. We may have stuff that occurs out of the surf. We're doing stuff, we're setting aside for a water plant update, water tower maintenance. We've done 2 or 3 projects regarding water tower maintenance. We still have to do more. We're setting aside money to drill a well in the Memory Park, if that ever becomes a real possibility, or another well, if one of our wells would go down. And over the 3.5, 4 years I've been here, we've had a couple wells we've had to do an awful lot of work on. Fortunately, they've come back to full production. But So we need to set aside money for wells. On the MRF, don't have too much, and then transfer to water reserve. That's it. Go ahead, John. On the distribution side, which is all the fire hydrants and water mains and meters and everything else, we have a little bit decreased cost in personnel, but we need to keep personnel around. Contractual insurance is up. Deposit interest and expense. That's the interest on it, but commodities, we don't have any more change, although hydrants cost more. Construction materials, slightly less. Capital improvements, we still keep replacing meters, and we should. They should be replaced every 10 years. And I even think AWWA says quicker than that, but I don't know of any city that's able to do it quicker than 10 years. We have an increase. We have a little bit of increase on the SURF because we're putting aside for water line replacement, also the bond payment. And then the municipal equipment reserve fund, we have portions to replace the Vectron, update the Timberline communications, and the IT backbone. Go ahead, Josh. The bond payment is from 2016 to 2036, as you've heard the auditor previously. We got $273,000 in 26, which will leave us $2.5 million remaining on the principal at the start of 26. Go ahead, Josh. On the miscellaneous and reserve fund on the water, we have the transfer to general, it's 160. Clean water fee, and then we have compensation use, which has decreased a little bit. That's just instead of taxes, there's a compensating use tax. The water reserve is getting close to $350K at the end of 25, still not close enough to replace water tower or treatment plant, which are two big things that you don't want to happen to your water system. So, we did have a slight increase in water rates in 22 after the previous change in 2015. We want to get in a habit of reviewing those rates annually. It's much easier with smaller rate increases. We'll have a presentation soon. We've done pretty good to catch up on the water tower maintenance contract, but those are big expenses, and we got a couple big ones left. As far as painting, painting the outside of those towers is not a little task. So, go ahead, Josh. We will also have new EPA lead and copper regulations require additional sampling beginning in 25. They also require us to replace 3% of our water lines that are lead annually. We don't have any as part of the city system, but we do have connections that the customers have or from their service line, and the EPA is expecting us to replace those. Over 3% of that a year upcoming. So that's a new cost we're going to have to find somewhere. And to get it accomplished somehow. I don't have an answer to that for right now. Neil and I haven't talked about it enough. Staff continues to insert valves in the system to prevent shutting down a larger area than needed when working on water lines. They just added another valve at a fire hydrant, our oldest fire hydrant at 8th and Walnut from 1948. And I don't think I changed it in here either. Purchase the well rights near city limits or build new well sites, then resize water lines for well expansion, if we would need to do that. It isn't just the well, it's how do you get the water from the well to the treatment plant. So we did make changes in state water rights to reconfigure current wells so we could pump more from a certain well. And we have current wells on a continual basis. Wells are old and need regular maintenance. I think we've had 3 of them that have had big issues the last 3 years. So, go ahead, John. Did I change it? No. Because I did this before you guys changed it last week. 8th and Walnut was 1948, so it's only 87 years old, that fire hydrant. So. Still working on the water towers, have had projects on the standpipe, the power plant water tower, and the north water tower. Next one's gonna be paint the outside of the south water tower or one of the others. Power plant water tower maybe, bigger cost. And the staff did do a project on Walnut Street. They're about to get started on a project up by DeLeo, and the county road shop, and do some work there. Need to keep doing that on a regular basis so it doesn't become. Right before I got here, you guys had something done by the engineering firm about water lines to replace, and it had over $3 million of various water mains all over town. Walnut Street was one of them. But we need to keep doing little projects to take little chunks out of that. So we can keep working on it. Because those are 2-inch water lines. That doesn't provide very good for those customers on that block. So it needs to be a 6-inch at least. Go ahead, Josh. The red line is expenditures. It's above the blue line, which is revenues, without the cash balance. Go ahead. Let's talk about dirty water. We talked about clean water. Let's talk about dirty water. We have a very conservative increase in the budget of 20 cents per month each year. Generates about $500 more per month. We do have a little variation in seasonal basis, but not too much. Go ahead, John. Those are the actuals. Go ahead. Too many of those. We shouldn't have included those. On the treatment side, we do have a wastewater treatment plant. We have 2 folks that are paid out of the sewer treatment. Insurance is up. Surprise. Vehicle maintenance, we have an increase. We're setting aside more for equipment maintenance and repairs on different stuff within the wastewater treatment plant. Capital improvements, we spend about $50,000 to camera sewer mains and then clean the headworks on a contract. SURF, we don't have anything set aside from the treatment, and MRF, no, just IT backbound right now. Go ahead. On the collection, which is all the pipes that lead to the wastewater treatment center, we have 1 employee, and then we have the contract. There's not many changes in that whole part of it. We do have balances set aside for a single axle truck with a tank, a sewer jet, Vectron, and shoring and tools. We are working in the capital improvement, the SURF there, the lift station upgrades, and the sewer main lines. Go ahead, Josh. And then finally, we get the reserve fund for the sewer. Do we keep it the same amount to the general in 26? That's one of the questions, always. Reserve is just treading water. We don't have any transfers scheduled in 2026. And we've kind of left sewer alone because other things take bigger priority, water and electric. So we did do a big part trying to keep the wastewater treatment plant in operation in 22, but we need to keep after it as we can, and we'll probably be coming to you within the next month or two on a lining project as far as redoing the liner within the pipes on a couple critical areas in town. So putting that together, staff is putting that together right now. Go ahead, Josh. Some of the challenges with sewer, go ahead. We do have projects as a result of Cameron Clean. I'm getting ahead of myself here. We did do a sewer lining project completed in 23. We're working on another one, hopefully late this year or early 26. The wastewater treatment plant has variable drives for the blowers. It would be nice to get a DO probe, which is dissolved oxygen probe, and the SCADA computer for another area at the wastewater treatment plant. are needed upgrades. And it's just trying to get the maintenance done on that system, so. Go ahead, Josh. Now that we've talked about dirty water, we need to talk about trash. No changes in the revenues. We do have a transfer to the general fund, but it's reduced in this proposed budget because our reserve is getting low. We're down to about 50,000 in the trash fund. And then the final option to renew is January 28th. Just put that on there as far as our current contract within the camp. Go ahead, Josh. Been talking the whole time about SURF, NERF, and GERF, all kinds of IRFs. The Capital Improvement Reserve Fund, we do transfers from our regular funds into the Capital Improvement Reserve Fund. And the final amount is usually depends on decisions for budget. Consequently, we really don't give you a, you have, and Mary put at your desk these nice colored sheets that have all the various projects from every fund listed on them. So it's basically our capital plan for the city. It's capital improvement plan. And it gives you an idea for all those different things that are included in there. Go ahead, Josh. The Municipal Equipment Reserve Fund just is basically all the vehicles. Again, it depends on decisions made in the other budgets. So, and then in the Grant Improvement Reserve Fund, we do transfers from the general fund to meet any local match required on grant applications. Those are the bigger grant applications. Whether it's the cost sharing project with KDOT, whether it's the KDOT this or that occurs, or at the airport, a lot of times it ends up through grant improvement reserve funds. Go ahead. Employee Benefits Fund. The ad valorem tax that will be dedicated will be more than 2025's. It'll be about 1 mil, a little over 1 mil more for the employee benefits funds. The health insurance, we had a little bit less, but we were budgeting for an 8% increase, and then we changed it to 7% for the staff revision. But is that enough? That's our guess. Doesn't mean it'll match it. Other amounts match personnel costs because we end up paying the FICA and the other things out of the employee benefits fund. Go ahead, Josh. The self-insurance fund, because our health insurance, we have a portion, it's partially self-insured. So for big events, when it's more than, and we switched that, didn't we, Mary, from 30,000 to 40,000? So any health insurance incident or surgery that ends up more than 40,000 in costs, then gets applied to the self-insurance fund. Or your self-insurance fund funds the insurance that pays for those events. That's in addition to your regular health insurance. So there's transfers from other funds, including the employee benefits and utilities. And right now, the cash balance in that self-insurance fund is budgeted to finish 26 at right at about $500,000. But for 48, 49 employees, so it does, and their dependents, we have about 130, 140 total on insurance, I think. So it doesn't take much to use up that if you would have several large events. Go ahead. Airport. No changes. And I just listed on there, the Airport Fund 9 actually has a little bit of property tax attached to it. And we usually try to have just a little bit in our property tax for it so that we can keep up our share of grants for the airport. We started with 50,000 because of the revisions and the cuts we made, we went down to 10,000. So it's really not a whole lot. But most of the FAA grants are 90%, 10%. So it's only 10% required from us. And we do have a certain amount dedicated to get set for that. Go ahead, Josh. The other fund, the Airport Improvement Fund, which is actual construction projects run through, includes grant receipts and then the transfer from that tax fund of the 9. And sometimes we end up with all projects and expenditures are recorded in this account, and then the engineering and fiscal agent fees, they're based on project costs. Go ahead, Josh. Library funds, 13 and 46. There is a tax that's applied to the library, both for library and library employee benefits. They have a maximum amount, which is 6.75 mils, which is a few bullet points down. They're in the mid-5s right now for the library fund, or between the two of them, for library and library employee benefit. We do not approve details on expenditures. They just ask for a certain amount. If it's within what the ordinance says, then that's our only decision, really, for that part. Go ahead, Josh. Bond and interest fund is a tax fund. It's slightly less ad valorem in 26 and 25. We have the water issue paid out of the water fund, and then the street improvements from 2017. It only goes till 2027, so we got 2 more years left, budget-wise. I mean, I know we're in 25, but 2 more budgets to put that in the bond and interest fund. And next year, it's the numbers you see there, $291,000 in principal and interest that we'll end up paying. And then we have a cash basis guarantee, basically, and we reduce that to 15,000 what staff did instead of 20. And that's if people don't pay their taxes. Helps us at least a little bit be able to pay them, make the bond payment if it doesn't come about. Cemetery Improvement Fund, we have lot sales. They were higher in 25, although we're putting the same level down in 26. Burial permits are down slightly. And then we have set aside expenses for grass and fence and building improvements, which is either the chapel or the caretaker shed. We do have a transfer for land purchase. We're using this fund for that, to set aside money for that, because eventually, and it's going to be probably within the next decade, we'll need to purchase additional land for the cemetery. Otherwise, no other changes. Go ahead, Josh. Law Enforcement Fund. This used to be a popular fund. It's kind of, the last bullet point is probably the most important. Court ruling will severely limit the forfeitures and impounds that will be allowed in this category. So basically, this fund will become a dinosaur here pretty soon. Won't be allowed. But Goodland's used this fund for quite a few years for stuff. Go ahead. We also have a small fund, Municipal Court Diversion Fund, and buy a couple things out of that. Printer and police equipment. There's not too much money in that fund. Go ahead, Josh. Special highway, the gasoline tax, according to the state statute. It's our main source to chip and seal streets in Goodland. And in 2026, we'll have $165,000 from this fund set aside for chip and seal project. We use a little bit of funds from somewhere else as well. So, but there's less, you understand that the fuel tax is going down with the more efficient cars and then also electric cars. There's less going in that fund. So hopefully we continue to keep getting the same amount. Special parks is the liquor tax according to state statute. Half of it goes to general fund, half to special parks. We get about $9,000 per year to special parks. We use that for park improvements. And just like earlier tonight, we're going to try to use a little bit more of it for to get that resurfacing project done, pickleball court. We've used up to $15,000 in prior years, even though we get $9,000. It just kind of rolls in that fund until we get something to pay for. Go ahead. We do have a vehicle inspection fund that just records for the VIN inspection. Basically do that on behalf of the highway patrol. So, go ahead. Okay, to the questions. For the overall budget. To meet the same ad valorem rate as the 2025 budget, I'm sorry for that mistake in grammar. Well, not grammar, but the budget would require an additional $437,000 in cuts or additions to revenue. That's where we started with. To meet the projected R&R rate, which is to keep the same number of dollars that were used for property taxes, there would have to be $489,000 in cuts from its current form, or somehow an additional almost $500,000 in revenue. We need a staff direction with, do we attempt to reach R&R? Whether or not we try to reach the R&R 49.704 mils, do we send the request to have a hearing notice? And then with the three-legged stool of property sales and user fees, because the main part of the budget, funding-wise, either comes from property taxes or from sales taxes or from user fees. And so how do you pay for increased costs if none of those are increasing? And when you don't have control over it, our insurance, we don't. We got little things we can adjust, but not a huge amount. We go to the next page, Josh. We did have, because of the work session last week, you had directed staff and asked us to identify the critical pieces from the 2026 budget. We did identify $434,000 to cut from, basically from our revisions to 25 for the rest of this year, for part of it, and then stuff in 26. We went through the budget again. We did get close. We got $434,000 worth of potential cuts, which is close to that goal of 437. But then we did not try to get to 498. It was mentally tough just to get to the 430 level. So with potential cuts, staff then put together a list of items to put back in the budget if we wanted to go a little bit higher. And some of those things that we put back in was that we had cut and then said was painting the Van Gogh big easel. It's getting to the point where it needs to be done. That's $15,000. There was building a dog pound. We're going to have to build a dog pound, and that's just part of it. The roofs for the Armory Building and Museum, which is the set-asides to get something done, and both those buildings need something done with their roof. Grant writer, there was $7,500. The health insurance, that number that I showed in the health insurance fund made it down to 5% increase, went back up to 7%. Commercial demolition, this is an additional cost because of, we mentioned that last meeting in the building inspection budget, of 4 different commercial properties that we may be asked to demolish here fairly soon. 2 different hotels, the res care, and I'm forgetting the 4th. Which one? There's that, but then 17th of May as well. But 50,000, that still isn't enough. We have about 40,000 and something else that could be applied to it. But when the hotels probably will cost $250,000 or more to demolish, it's kind of tough. Salaries is just kind of moving stuff around. Put back set aside for street equipment, 14,000. Because Kenton always likes to tell me that's the first place I look was in the street equipment, but this is the first part they put back as well. And put back set aside for park equipment was 2,500. So amongst those things, there was a couple other smaller things. Go ahead to the next page, Josh. Was basically putting back about $175,000 in these critical items: roofs, big easel, dog pound equipment, health insurance increases, commercial demolition, and others. Would put the total mills at 54.949 compared to 50.923, which is where this year's rate is at. So, question for the commission is, what do we want to publish, or what do we want to send to the county clerk for the R&R notice, basically? We'll still need to put together a resolution. So we'll need, we can make some decisions tonight, but then we'll need to have a short 5-minute, 10-minute meeting to approve the resolution to send to the county within the next week or two, before July 20th, which is a week from Sunday. I don't care to meet on Sunday or Saturday. So that is what staff is asking. We have gone, I made mention of this at the last meeting. We have stayed pretty close to what our level is at for a number of years. It is getting more difficult every single year to get to this point. And we do have a couple things that we do need to do. I mean, more than a couple things. And this isn't a question of between needs and wants. Like we said before, it's just priority of needs. And the question is, how do we go forward? So, you've heard of staff concerns, you've heard of what staff has presented. Stand for questions, comments, complaints, concerns.
You always do a good job at it, so it's.
My opinion, the revenue neutral rate is a no, just because you guys, we cut and cut and cut, and then they want us to cut more. And we can't keep cutting and taking things out of our budget and keeping the city the way everybody likes the city to be ran. And nobody likes to see property taxes go up. It's the worst of two evils. You know, so yeah, for darn sure no on the revenue neutral rate is my opinion.
I would say that if you're anybody that owns a vehicle or has insurance on your home right now, you know that prices are increasing for insurance, and to expect that a business of our size is not going to have considerable increases. I mean, I feel like, you know, I just kind of spitballing here, but insurance for our property taxes or for our property has doubled since I've been here. What that has cost the city. So I think, if you own property yourself, that costs are up right now and there's no way for us to not have some kind of increase here. I'm good with the putbacks. I'm tired of being in a position where we feel like we have to strip down the plane to, nothing but a fuel tank and try to fly it to where we need it to go. I want to get to a point where we can stop the decline in the reserve funds and start building those back up so we can focus on projects that we need to. I don't want to be on a commission that raises property taxes, but I think we have no choice but to make those tough decisions when the time calls for it. And it's not lost on me that when we make those decisions that it raises my taxes too.
Yep.
So it's not just doing those things and we don't have to pay that price as well. But I think it would be my direction that we notify the county that we will not be able to meet the R&R rate this year.
Agreed.
Yeah, I don't think I could have said it much better.
We need to put stuff back.
One thing that staff will need direction though is there does need to be a number that is put in that resolution will be sent to the county for the R&R notice. So. And we can make it any number that you would like. We gave 2 options, but that doesn't mean that's the only options. But for the sake of discussion, didn't really want to go into too many ifs, ands, or buts.
That is the question of the hour then, I guess.
The other thing that may be an easier question is when would you like to meet so we could approve the resolution to be sent to the county? We will not be able to wait until our next meeting on July 21st. It will need to be done before that.
Well, that seems to me like an easy question we can answer. Would you like to meet this week or next week? Next week? Okay.
The city clerk requests vehemently that it be next week.
On Monday next week.
How about Monday night at 5 o'clock? Monday night the 14th at 5 o'clock?
I'll work hard.
Thank you. Mary?
That works.
Yeah. So what do we think for mill rate?
What are the, this might sound kind of dumb, but, what are the differences we're going to see between the 50.923 and the 54.949? What's the tax differences we're going to see with that?
It would be on, and I'll give you an example of, do you want me a more expensive example or a
Do 150,000.
150,000?
Yeah.
I actually have this on this little chart. That would cost $69.45 more per year.
A year.
At 50.9 or 54.9?
The difference that the 54.949,
That's the 50.
The 4 point,
the four mills
Yeah.
would end up to be $69.45 for a $150,000 home.
Which is about average here, isn't it?
For a $200,000 home, it'd be $92. For a $100,000 home, it'd be half that, it'd be $46.30
That's per year.
per year.
Per year.
so if you, it's If you divide that, for the $150,000 home, it's $5.75 a month, basically, is what your taxes would go up.
Well,
Now, obviously, for a $300,000 home, twice that.
More,
$11.50.
but yeah.
So,
A month.
now for commercial businesses, and I just have a couple examples, and I know their commercial businesses are worth way more, but they get taxed higher, but then there's a certain amount is discounted at the top. But $150,000 business would be $150 per year. Basically because they're charged at 25% and residential is charged at 11.5% as far as the assessed value.
You know, I would rather do a small increment like 4 mils than wait 2 or 3 more years and have to do a 10, 11 mil increase. The smaller increase is easier to get over than a big jump in a mill.
agreed.
So would we want to do like at 55 even? Maybe?
We can make it come out, because it'll usually change in the fall, because they'll do the actual valuation and they'll give us notice of that after we've, which is kind of funny regarding the R&R, because you'd end up having to be a little bit scooched underneath it to make sure you stay within the R&R, because the revised valuation oftentimes is just a little bit more. But so what we'll do is, if you would want to do that, is have a budget at 55 mils with a certain dollar amount attached to it. And then whatever the valuation ended up, their final valuation in the fall, in October, then it would change maybe back to 54.949 or 55.001. I don't know.
Because a mill gets us, what, 43,000?
$43,000, yeah. Because our valuation is 43 million and change now.
Well, I think that would be my direction then, I guess.
So,
Set it at 55 for right now.
Okay. We can do that as staff. And that doesn't mean you have to approve the resolution next week when we present it either. You can authorize a change to that if you have a change of heart before that. But once we send it to the county, then that's kind of the maximum level you can be at. Now we can go down, you can actually approve a budget that has less mills in September, because that's when the actual public hearing is. But that's the maximum level you can be at.
Well, if you would put that together for us, we will review it next Monday.
Will do.
Thank you. Does that, anybody else have any questions or comments or concerns on the budget proposal just presented? Okay. Move on to reports. Kent, you haven't talked in a little bit. How about the city manager report?
I don't have anything. A few things included in the packet: manager memo, the June month-end fund balance, municipal court, the second quarter report, building inspection, second quarter report. And I don't have anything else specific for you.
Okay. Do we have any questions for the city manager?
Not.
Okay. Move on to commissioner reports. Start on my left with Commissioner Howard.
I'd just like to thank all the city employees that worked on the budget. I know that's a really tough thing to do, especially these days with prices are uncertain and the insurance and everything going up all the time. I thank all you for doing all that, because I don't even like doing it, so I know that you guys don't like doing it, so. And then all the other city employees for what they do around town that everybody sees all the time, so, thank you.
Commissioner Archer?
I will parrot what JJ said, and that's kind of it.
Mr. Myers?
I was gonna say the same thing. I appreciate everything that everybody's done. It makes our job a lot easier up here, even though we have to make decisions. It just makes it a lot easier when you guys are doing all the back and legwork for us. Appreciate it.
Thank you. For the mayor's report, I just pass along again the item that I talked to Kenton about the water project. I got a call from a community member that was extremely happy with the work that was done at 8th and Walnut, and I passed that along to you guys, and just want to bring that out in the meeting as well. Thank you for the work that you guys did. I know the community member was very happy about that, even though we weren't quite sure where the location was they were talking about. We knew they were happy you were working, so thank you. Thank you for that. And again, I would kind of repeat what the other commissioners said. One thing that I saw throughout the budgeting process and have seen the last couple of years is the amount of effort and heart that the department heads put into putting this budget together. They want the best city that they can, but they also don't want to burden everybody with property taxes. But there comes a point where we have to make tough decisions, and we'll do that when the time is right. So with that, I would conclude my report, and I would take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Myers.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Howard. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.